So I get these other perceptions of lifelines, right? We could just say that, even though that's not exactly what it is, but it just sounds better. And I was thinking yesterday about Barron Trump. He kept coming into my perception as a child. And um, he has this weird connection to this kid that I knew when he was young, and Melania as well. In fact, I would say probably was them. But anyways, yeah, what's going on with Baron? Because he comes in and out of my perception, and whenever that happens, suddenly he shows up in the news, which he did. So I'm thinking that there's something happening there. There's definitely a certain amount of um, not being able to have, the ability to just shut out the world, of course. But there's, I don't like to set up the negativity, but I'm just saying what I'm picking up on, that there is a certain amount of trauma that's been happening and being addressed. The thing about having parents like these, you know, I actually was talking to a baby boomer the other day, and it it was kind of funny because he made a comment about being a baby boomer, and he said something about the way the state of the world was, and I said, well, the baby boomers are the ones causing all the problems. And it was a joke, but it was also the truth. And he knew it. And he started laughing. He thought it was funny because he was kind of a hippie guy. And I could just tell it hit, you know. And these this type of mentality, the baby boomer mentality, isn't like so horribly extreme once you get to know them, but they put off a certain persona that everybody picks up on as a whole. And it has a tendency of coming across as being kind of unsophisticated on a level, un, and underdeveloped, um, in the sense of old school ways, you know, like what once was no longer is. So that kind of carries over. And it's not to say that there aren't people like this that are younger also. There is always the potential of this type of mindset, but it's just that the baby boomers as a whole kind of represent this at this point in time compared to the other generations. Now, definitely the Gen Xers have a certain carryover of that, but I think that because of the trauma that most Gen Xers went through with their family upbringing and the old world experience, what we would consider, in the past, um, it's kind of become more of a overall effect that we focus on the negative aspects of it instead of the positive. Because when I was young, there were a lot of like celebrated older things that were celebrated about history. Like they would pick and choose all the good shit. Now, there was the bad stuff too that was there. I think that gets carried through each generation as they're like this, we're like this, that kind of thing. But I think because the baby boomers represent that old experience and it's so obvious the difference in so many ways, and how Trump kind of represents to the world this old person mindset, but it's not old person. It's just the boomer generation and what they went through and how they have carried over that kind of old world mentality that no longer serves our state of awareness anymore. And I feel like the Gen Xers were kind of that transitional point. So Gen Xers, I feel in my perception as being a Gen Xer, more connected to the uh, newer experience of reality. And uh, I can connect more to how younger people perceive their reality in a lot of ways, even though I'm not saying that young people are highly aware or that they're connected with what's going on completely. I'm just saying as far as the way things should kind of flow in our experience of reality socially and like dealing with the world. Whereas before it was more, the man's man and the patriarchal and all that, where people are starting to try to move away from that, even though there is a perception of like Republicans trying to cling to that. But that's really just a mentality. It's not Republican, Democrat, even though people like to make it about that. So, this is what I'm bringing up in regards to Barron Trump. I keep getting this connection with him, and uh, it really came through last night.